Hi, my name is Daphne Thompson, and today I am here to chat about that honeymoon period of when you've hired someone and you don't quite exactly know who they are, what they do, what their character is. And that's what we're going to chat about today. Sylvia Ma will be joining us soon, as well as some of our other entrepreneurs. So, welcome, Sylvia. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please introduce yourself a little bit and just tell everyone how freaking fabulous you are.
No, you're the one who's amazing. So, Dr. Sylvia Ma, and I am an investor and promoter for entrepreneurs to launch their businesses. So, very excited about being part of the Superwoman Entrepreneurs gang here. We have fabulous, wonderful ladies who are going to impart some great insight for us.
That's great. So today we're chatting about that honeymoon period of when you've hired someone, but you still don't really know who they are. They usually only show their character in about 2.5 months to 3 months. So what do you do in that interim period? What usually this happens also when you're hiring easy to test skills, but it's not very easy to test character when you bring that up. There's so many solutions to test your different personalities. When it is what type of personality you are, what is your strength and your weaknesses. But to actually test what's going on underneath all of that is really, really difficult. So Annie, thank you so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself a little bit and just tell us about how fabulous you are.
Am I muted right now?
No.
Great. Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm with Immigration Station Canada, and I do immigration work for people who are hoping to come to Canada or who are already in Canada and maybe are trying to become permanent residents or citizens of Canada or are bringing family here and various other things. So my job is a lot of working with people and problem solving, and it's just a really great industry to be in because I do get to be part of so many lives, and I do get to always be navigating these kind of challenging situations that they're great puzzles, even though they're great puzzles. You're working with people, and so it's lives, so it's important that that's taken very seriously, but it's an interesting job in that you're always trying to solve these problems and find the best path forward for people, and that's what I really love about it. So decreasing the honeymoon period. I know that there is a honeymoon period, but I don't find. I think for me, I allow the people to make the mistakes. Like I've said before, I'm okay with people making mistakes, and I sort of assume that they're giving me 110% when they start, and that's not the reality of working in my establishment in the long term. And I almost encourage, I encourage good behavior, but I accept normal behavior because that's what I want. I want to know that their normal is a high enough standard that it's going to work for my business in the long term. And I don't want to see that over exuberant employee who's working all hours of the day because they're not going to last. They're going to quit or they're going to move up and out. So I don't actually love that kind of employee. They're great in the short term, but you're going to use them to death because you can. You're going to throw everything at them and you're so great, but here's more. And they end up working themselves right out of that job. So I find it's better for me with my employees when they start doing that nonsense of working when they don't need to be, to just tell them, you don't need to do that. I appreciate your time and I appreciate that you are making this considerable effort. And I want to see that in the week, but when it's a holiday weekend, you're off. If I decide to work, that's my choice. I own the business. So, and I may, and sometimes I'll even send them an email and say, disregard this until the holiday's over. I just wanted to get it out there so I don't forget. But, this is not for you to look at. And I try to even avoid that because the overachiever will look at it anyway. But just avoiding having them work in those off hours because that's their time and they need to know that. And if they're, again, that person who's going to overachieve at all times, they're going to burn themselves out and they're going to feel underappreciated, even though they're really doing it to themselves. So it's my job to balance them in a way, and to make sure that they are focused on the task at hand and the time that is available in the workday. And I think that this is a very different viewpoint from what we saw in the past, where it was expected that people would arrive early and leave late. And it's just not the way that we function now. And those people who are doing that, like I said, they'll do it for a while. And I think certain people are at periods in their life where maybe they went through a breakup, so they're focusing on work and they're giving you every bit of themselves because they need to do that. But then they're going to find someone new in their life and you're not going to see that, and someone's going to get disappointed. So it's better to just keep things kind of even right from the start. And, I take that honeymoon period with a grain of salt, like, thanks, but you don't need to do that. And then I try to encourage after the honeymoon period, if I'm seeing things that I maybe would like to see done a little bit differently or a little bit better, I encourage that, but in a very tactful way, because I don't want someone to feel as though I haven't brought this up the whole time and now I'm coming down on them because the honeymoon period's over and maybe they are not doing it quite how I want. And I even had one of those situations today, and it was just a matter of tactfully shaping the request so that I'm going to get what I want. And I think it's going to work. I'll let you know next week if that email worked. I think it's going to work. But yeah, that's how I tackle that problem. And I hope that is helpful. There's my mom passing by. Yeah, I hope that is helpful. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Annie. I do agree with you that, like, we've all had those overachievers, and yes, we love them because they are exactly what we do and they go over and above. But you are right, they burn out extremely fast, and that's also not what we need. We need people that are there for the long run and is able to do the marathon with us. So yeah, they need to be able to rest and need to be able to know when is it family time and when is it work time. So yeah, I completely agree with you. But Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us today. I just have to tell you guys, so Suzanne did a phenomenal session with me and my team during the week last week, where she helped us address stress, overwork, basically the overachievement, to break through those limiting beliefs that we had. And it was a really phenomenal session. So I highly recommend that any one of you and any one of our listeners, if you are stuck on some sort of limiting belief, even if you don't know that you have that limiting belief, please reach out to Suzanne. She is phenomenal, and she did help me and my team phenomenal, really, really great in such a short period of time, just to get over that hump of not thinking that you can achieve all these things, or taking that break, or being kind to yourself. So just highly recommend Suzanne. She is phenomenal. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Daphne. That's lovely. It's really good to hear. It was a good session for your team and for you as well. I see your message, Annie. So I'm Suzanne, and I'm from Cairns in Far North Queensland. And what I love to do is help people break through those limiting beliefs or just those emotional blockages. If you've had, say, your employees maybe have had a job in the past that has been an absolute disaster. I get so many people who've had that experience. And then because they've had that experience in the past, they bring it into the present, because that's how the law of attraction works. If it's in your energy field, you're going to attract more of it. And so, going back to those original hurts and pains and disappointments and resentments and being made to feel small or whatever it is, all the limiting beliefs of I'm not good enough or I'm not enough in some way. Once you break through those, it can make an enormous difference for people. So this idea of the honeymoon period is really fascinating. I love what you just said, Annie. You really can't, you've got to have people who know how to love themselves enough so that they don't burn out, so that they actually take care of themselves and have balance in their lives. And so, if you're lucky enough to employ someone like that first up, that's great. If you've got to train them to do that, that's even okay as well. But, for yourself and for your team, you really have to balance. Life isn't just about work, is it? Please don't tell me that you think it is, because it's not. It's about living. Yeah, absolutely. So it really, for me, I'd want to see that the employees would love themselves enough to take care of themselves, and I didn't have to nurse them through it, because, you know, there's not enough time in the day to do that. It's hard enough to do it for yourself, really, isn't it? So that would be where I would be. I actually don't employ people except for contractors who do some work for me, but I don't normally employ a team. So I've avoided that pretty much, but I certainly see people who are in a team or people who've employed the team, and they a lot of them are struggling with all of those emotional blocks, which can be so easily cleared, as you and your team found out the other night. Or the other night for me, the other morning for you, very early morning for you, Daphne. So yeah, it can be cleared. It's easy to do, and yeah, I highly recommend that you get it cleared for yourself and for the team, because I think people are generally doing the best they can do, but life gets in the way, and limiting beliefs get in the way, and old hurts and pains get in the way. So if you've got a team member who is not, you know, they've gone through the honeymoon period and they're now off into the not so great period, then there's maybe something going on for them that you can make a change, you know, or help them guide them to make a change. So hope that's helpful. Thanks.
Thanks, Suzanne. Like, I hear what all of you guys are saying, and to a degree, I 100% agree with you. However, there are still those situations when you see this candidate and you give them a chance and they say all the right words, their personality tests are still absolutely great, they fit into the personality type that you need, all their strengths and their weaknesses come out correct, their enneagrams, everything just seems perfect for this role that you have. A scenario that I recently went through. One of the team members, again, perfect personality, the skills that we presented to them and the skills that we wanted them to do was really good. Everything was great. But as they stepped into the team environment, it's as if they created this entitlement feel or this entitlement vibe around them that I don't even know how to explain it, but it was very off-putting from my perspective, and it was quite kind of harmful towards the team. But these things we did not experience in the testing period before we actually made a formal offer. This was all was well, everything was awesome, everything was great. And because of that kind of harmful attitude and the character that started showing through in this candidate, we didn't reach the wealth creation that we intended to. So that's the part that I'm going into the honeymoon period, that you only see that after about 2.5 months. So Tracy, I know you deal with big team members as well, or not big team members, that's the wrong word, members of teams with more people in larger teams. Please introduce yourself and just thank you so much for joining again, and tell us, how do you handle this honeymoon period situation?
Can you hear me okay? Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes, my mic's on, and I just wanted to confirm. So yes, hi everybody. Good morning. I'm in here from Tokyo. And it's early morning for me, and it's very early morning for me. And so what I do is I run multiple companies and multiple teams. It's a constant juggling act, and it's a constant amount of checking in, and also. For us, what we've done over the years is had to identify very quickly people who are not really a good fit for the team. We are the opposite of micromanagers. So there are some people who thrive under a situation where they don't have a manager looking over them all the time, and there are some people who really want that, and you really don't know that until you go through go through a certain amount of time, and have them to be delivering based on what they say they're going to be delivering. So during the honeymoon period, or during that interview period, and during that settling in time, they are very engaged, and they are very yes, I love this, and I'll do this for you, and no problem. But it isn't until weeks and months down the track that you figure out that that they haven't actually been honest, not just with you, but with themselves, that perhaps what they thought they wanted originally, they wanted a long leash, they wanted autonomy, isn't really what they want after all. And it's up to the team leader to be able to be honest, and be honest with the team member, and say, if this is not really the environment that you feel that you're thriving in, then let's look at something different for you. So it is we've had issues in the past where team members have not been performing with our hands-off approach, and we've just had to let them go, unfortunately. So we try to be clear from the beginning that we're not the micromanagers, and we're not the a place where there are constant check-ins, but these things do take time to figure out who's going to be a great team member. So we've learnt as managers that in some places we need to do better, and in other places that the team member has learnt. So that's a very long-winded explanation for a very short question. So I hope that's been useful.
Thanks, Trace. No, it does. But all of these things are very useful. I just want to paint the picture, because this is something that is frustrating me quite a lot about making right hires. So I did some research, of course, the nerd that I am, I did. So just in the States alone, there is 31.7 million small to medium enterprises. There's currently being registered another 583,000 per month, new registrations. 99.9% of the full economy of the state is made up out of the small to medium enterprises, and 49.9% of all people that are working is employed by small to medium enterprises. Okay, that's the market size. That is rather massive. The failure rate of small to medium enterprises of not reaching year 5, I think, Sylvia, you would know these stats as well, is ridiculously high. Mm-hmm. So I have realized now I've had 2 rather devastating decisions that I made that for my company and for my team, that I had bad hiring decisions. And yeah, some of those decisions could have closed the door if I didn't act quicker, or if I acted later. Scenarios that we found ourselves in were where candidates or team members would literally lie about what happened, where I listened to recordings afterwards, and this is a story that I hear from him or her, and I listen to the recording, and it's kind of a whole different aspect. Or they stopped communicating with clients, where, again, I am fully on board with Tracy with the non-micromanagement situation. But if you can't trust your team on these type of things, us as entrepreneurs, we lose business big time. I was able to trace back with this specific bad hire that I lost 2 rather substantial clients, and I lost 1 rather big upsell due to things. So my experience is this is rather frustrating. So if I'm experiencing it, I know other small to medium enterprise business owners are also experiencing this. How do you find these type of character issues out beforehand? Because something that someone is not lying, or something that someone is lying to you, or someone that is hiding truths, these are things that you can't test beforehand. So Sylvia, What is your input on this? I would love to hear. You deal with this on a daily basis as well.
Yeah, I'm going to take two approaches. One as an investor, right? Because that's one of the things, if we want to have a entrepreneur join our portfolio, it's about trust, it's about relationships, it's about character when they come into the portfolio, especially an early stage investor like myself that takes, 5 to 7 to 10 years with that entrepreneur, and the ups and downs and all of that. You really want to find that out. So of course, I do the things like strength finders and all the things that you mentioned as well to find out who they are, but really having conversations with them is what myself as an investor, and I know other investors do as well, is it's not the delivery of what they do, it's how they communicate. Do they get back to you on a certain amount of time? If you ask them to give you some kind of report, do they actually send it back to you within a reasonable amount of time? How do they craft their emails? How is the respect showcased in an email or in a conversation? So I know and let's say hiring somebody, you don't have the ability sometimes to have 7 conversations. I would say it takes me about 7 times to meet an entrepreneur. I meet them for coffee. I meet them in a Zoom call. I mean, even pre-COVID, I meet them with another investor, or I meet them with so those are the kinds of things that I do to see where are they. Can I see them in different environments? Of course, when you're hiring somebody new, you might not be able to do that. So that's why talking to somebody's references is super important, and asking them, what do you think their value system is? Did they match with the culture of your company? Those kinds of questions, the ones that are more culture related, relationship related, instead of asking them, did they hand in all of their deliverables on time? All of that is kind of so transactional that, yeah, you can get somebody to tell you the right things. But when you ask about culture, when you ask about values, when you ask about how did they work through a certain challenge, that's when you get to know the real person inside. So that's like one piece, is that investor view of at least meeting them a couple of times. And I would say for an employee, all of the employees that I've hired, I meet with them multiple times. I say, can you come in at this time? Not to be like ornery, right? It's more of like, can you come in and talk to me? Can you talk to a team member? Can you take this personality test? And if they get back to you immediately, you're like, oh, that's good. If they take 4 or 5 days, that's not good, right? All of those things are the things that I see as red flags and orange flags. And then I would say, I would add to it as when we were talking a little bit about when they do come in and find out their own values, of course, post hiring and in this honeymoon phase, is seeing how they interact with having lunch with the whole team, right? Having a conversation with everybody, not the typical, let's say, meeting that it's, again, transactional, the relational stuff, right? Because there are going to be some team members that are the executors. They're there at 8 o'clock in the morning, they leave at 5 o'clock at night. And if people come in at 10, they feel like, well, that's not cool, right? They come in at 10, what are they doing, right? So that honeymoon phase is deteriorated when you have multiple different types of people working together, and one wants the time to be more important than the executables, and the other ones are like, well, if I execute and I only come in 5 hours a day, but I do everything on the beach, who cares? I get all my stuff done. So you have to kind of be aware that there's going to be dynamics. You have to be aware of the culture that they're coming into and saying, will they actually match the culture? They might be amazing people with amazing traits, but they won't mesh with the culture. So I would say those are the 2 things that I wanted to bring up, is meeting them a couple of times, talking about conversations that are not transactional, more relational, connecting them to the culture, and then also trying to bring them into the team sooner than later. And then the team allowing them to understand, like one of the times that I had an example is this one person was very much 8 to 5. And there was another person that was 10 to 12, and then beach, and then like have lunch with somebody else. And like, she's a marketing girl, like she's creative and wonderful. And then the other 8 to 5 was very scientific, right? And it was just butting heads all the time. I said, you know what, let's just go out for lunch, the 3 of us. right? And we had meetings at lunch because the creative loved that. Oh my gosh, you're like talking to me, you're so excited. And then the scientist is like, oh my gosh, I hate doing this. But they get to see each other in the different lights. So it's awareness on both sides. And I'm done.
Thank you. I 100% agree with what you're saying. And like with this specific scenario, I did all of those things. Like brought them into the team beforehand, had the conversations. I knew about the kids and everything. But yeah, the other part that I am also noticing in quite a bit of small to medium enterprises specifically is that when they make these hires, it is usually in a time frame that they need to do it yesterday. It's not like corporates where there's usually a whole lot of people that can take on board a little task here and a little task. Majority of the time, everyone is overworked. Everyone has got too much on their plate. It's usually in a period of rapid growth. So that's kind of where this leadership people need to step in, and we need to be able to make the right hires. So, Trace, how would you do that in these scenarios that we've mentioned?
It's a hard question to answer. How would I do this? We, over the last few years, we've really shifted focus to gig workers, and we've found that really is a great way to keep the team very fast. What we try to do is that we have the principals who are the ones who are setting the strategy, who are the ones who are running the show, and we do hire out, outsource via mainly by gig workers. I just find that that relationship tends to be a lot clearer. It's a lot easier to define work product and what needs to be done. And a gig worker does have that, well, the sooner I deliver, and if I deliver this well, then the sooner I get paid. And I find that just works with us a lot better than bringing on people who are employees as such. Obviously, that's probably going to change if some of our projects come off the ground. Then we're going to have to rethink that. But at the moment, I'm really focused on the gig economy, and we've had some great experience with staff members who we just hire as we need, and it works great for them and it works great for us. And usually people who are already putting themselves out there on the gig economy have the sort of values and the sort of work ethic that tends to suit our company culture quite well. So that's how we're doing it at the moment. Things obviously may change, but I find gig workers to be a much more satisfactory way to go moving forward. I don't know how everyone else feels about gig workers. Has anyone else got experience that way?
I'd love to hear from Annie and Suzanne as well. Usually when we employ contract workers or short-term project workers, it is when there's an immediate short-term or short deadline, because we can't extend the timeline, but we can extend the amount of people that is working on it. So that's usually the only time that we do that. And in our industry specifically, yes, everyone always says that get your freelancers or get these guys to come and help out. The issue with that is the quality is not always consistent. And when you have a person that you've been working with for a longer period of time, they start kind of understanding more the strategy and the tone that you're working with, and that's someone that you can, but I have found that you can build with. But yeah, it's a give and take on both. But Suzanne and Annie, I'd love to hear what you guys are saying.
First of all, thank you for the explanation. I'd never heard that term before, gig worker. So it's good to know what that means. Daphne, I'm still stuck back on your person who gave you such a hard time. And I'm thinking about that, thinking what was going on there, because you did everything that you could do, all those things, that that have been mentioned so far, getting to know them, knowing what they're wanting, knowing their family, all of that stuff. What came to me was that maybe this person, like, there are people in the world who can lie their way through and tell you the story the way they know you want to hear it and so on. And I think you might have hit on one of those particular people. So, and maybe you've done it, I think you said twice. Yeah. So it's possible. And don't forget what I said about law of attraction. If you've done it and you're scared of doing it again, you're worried about doing it and it's really pissing you off, or sorry, I shouldn't be swearing on here, it's really annoying you, really getting under your skin, then you are going to attract more of them. So I really highly recommend you do some tapping to release all that frustration, first of all. But yeah, there are people out there who will lie their way through, make you think that they're the perfect employee, and then once things settle down out of the honeymoon period, they'll just go back to being their normal self. It's the same as, I don't like labels, but it's like marrying a narcissist. They are telling you all the right stuff to begin with, and then you find out who they really are. So I would really highly recommend that you clear the frustration and the irritation and the whatever the emotions are about it, so that you don't attract any more of them, because obviously they're costing the business, and not just to mention the time and the effort that you're putting in, but the damage that's done to the team along the way too. So it's a really tricky one. Annie, what's your experience of it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should beat yourself up too much about it. It stinks that it happened, but it does happen, and we do hire people who are not the right fit. And I think it takes just as much guts to terminate them quickly as it does to hire them and to spend that time. And that's always in the industries that I've worked in, in restaurants in particular, there's a very high turnover rate. And in certain areas, particularly servers, you really have to be aware of how they are communicating with the guests, because they're on their own and you can't be right there all the time. And so you have to have a very high level of trust. And they can cost your business a lot of money if they are not friendly or not helpful or not quick, or a server needs to be very bright, much brighter than you would think for. So it's a challenging position that requires a lot of skill, and servers do really well in other industries because they need to have those skills. So you're looking for a very specific type of person who can make or break your business. And it's the same in the kitchen because it's such a high pressure position. And so the same thing when you're looking at these people, you're looking for those specific qualities that are going to make them very good at what they do. And some of them come across great on paper or great in an interview because they're friendly, but the reality is they can't do that job. They just are not skilled. They can't handle that pressure. They can't do the job. And so it takes just as much savvy to know when to cut them loose, before they've done even more damage to your business, because and that's the big thing. You've seen them do a little damage, and now it's, do I let them do that again, or do I get rid of them right now before that happens? Because if they start costing you money or more money, then that's an even bigger problem. So I think, it stinks. We hate to hire the wrong person, but if you're hiring a bigger team, you're going to hire some people who are not the best fit. And maybe they would have met a standard that you were at before, but maybe your company has gotten a higher standard, or you've got a team that's really, really working well together, and then you add that person in and it's a mess. So then it's just recognizing, errors occur, they need to go. So
No,
that's
I do.
Don't stress about it, Daphne.
No, I just feel like I'm only one with horror stories here. No one else had some really silly hires.
Oh yeah.
There's one.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Can I just tell you, please tell me if you've experienced something like this. So again, after this first wrong hire, beginning of this year, I hired another person in this position that it was almost like a little bit opposite of what I had, but they still had all the qualities that I was looking for. And then I was like, all right, well, please go meet the team now. I don't want to be part of that conversation because I kind of feel like you need to be trust or build trust. But our company policies record all of your conversations. It is remote. It is just standard. Everyone is used to it. Record the conversations because you are basically the threat coming in. I need to be able to monitor that. So first of all, I ask after a while, I'm like, cool, well, tell me what is, like, send me the recordings. I'd like to see how they responded, what's happening. So this person goes, I decided not to do that because I wanted everyone to be on their comfort. I'm like, that's not what I requested. So remember, this is now after a whole period of testing and personality assessments and conversations and like small intricate consultancy, if you want to put that, jobs in between to see if that's happening. All right, so I was like, that is not what I asked you, but all right, tell me now what was discussed. She tells me like, no, they just chatted about what their kids' names are, or how they drink their coffee, blah blah blah, normal stuff. I was like, okay, but I asked you to chat about the project. All right, okay, let me be. I go ask my team, which is now of course loyal to me. I'm like, well, tell me about what happened in these discussions. They're like, yeah, no, we chatted about these things, but one thing was really weird. She asked a lot about the company structure. And then she asked a lot about one of the previous employees that were there. And I'm like, what? That's strange. Then she comes back, the candidate that I had, and say, all right, I think we should hire this previous guy that costed me money and that I kind of sort of made it easy for them to leave. We should hire him as a consultant. I'm like, what? How did I miss this? I was like, just, okay, well, that's over and done with. But I would love to hear if you guys had similar bizarre stories or just something that I'm not the only crazy one here.
No, you're not. You're not. Hang on. Let me put my camera back on. Hi. Had to move because it's busy in this house. I'm getting an office in 3 weeks and I'm very excited about it. Yeah,
Yay.
It'll be a relief. So, Daphne, I hired a woman. She worked for me for quite a long time. She was very good at her job. She came very highly recommended. It was a very odd experience where she would come in and she just wasn't quite right, like just not quite right. And then it took a long time because you couldn't put your finger on it because she was fine, but she wasn't fine. And we could not figure it out. And this is a woman with a family and kids and always showed up on time and did all these things. But after a long time of very odd things happening, like you'd find her asleep somewhere, or you thought maybe she'd had a stroke and hadn't told us because her face wasn't right, and things, just very odd things were happening. And we were really trying to support her, making sure that she had eaten enough and doing all these things. And it turned out that she was an alcoholic, but she was high functioning. And it got so severe that we absolutely had to terminate her employment, but we could not get our head around it because it had been fine. She'd been great. And it was just a little bit until the weirdest things were happening. And eventually we got it figured out. It helped that some of the booze was missing at that stage, so we had more of a clue, but it was a really surreal experience, and it took us a long time to figure this out. And this is a person that we trusted in a senior role, like a supervisorial role, and she was an absolute drunk. Like, it was a sad story ultimately, and we wanted to support her, but you can't have this in your business, and you can't run a business like this. And it was so weird. And just, that's one that strikes me. It's been a while since I've been in that business. But there have been a lot of odd situations that happen where you're just taken back, and you think you thought you had hired the perfect person, and then just the oddest things happen. Here's another one. A person who was applying to be a public health inspector, which is a big deal in Canada because everything's public here, publicly funded, government funded. So a very high up, important job. And he was working in our restaurant as a side gig. And he had been a swing manager, so a part-time manager, took big sections, lots of responsibility. He was stealing from us so much, stealing and stealing and stealing and stealing. And when we caught him and we had to set him up, it was another surreal experience, because this is somebody that we trusted. We really thought highly of him. He was an upstanding character in school to be a public health inspector in a high-level job. But this guy was a serious thief. Like, he was stealing hundreds of dollars every single shift, and he'd been with us for a long time, until his last day when he was chased out of the restaurant virtually. It was really, it was quite something. But so it happens, you do your best to hire the right people, but if you're hiring quantities of people, you're going to get some odd potatoes.
Suzanne,
Yeah.
I would love to, Sylvia, I want to hear your stories as well. But Suzanne, what would you say? Is there a way that you can test beforehand something like lying or stealing? How do you see that character that comes up?
Yeah, there's not really. The only thing that I would suggest is energetically get yourself in a good place as the person who's doing the hiring and attract the right people, because you can't tell, like Annie was just saying, and like your stories too, and I'm sure Sylvia's will be similar. These people are so good at putting forward what you want to see that they're going to fool you every time. So I think the only control you've really got, apart from doing a lie test or something like that, the graph thing that they do, whatever that's called. I don't think there's really a way except energetically to attract the right person. So really clear your energy field of what you've experienced in the past so that you're going to attract the right people in. It would be the only guarantee I think you can get. Sorry, I wish it was easy.
I'll jump in there, Suzanne, and agree with you there. That's absolutely the case. I mean, really, it does come down to the energy that you're putting out. Without getting too woo-woo about it, it totally is. So you can have all the right intentions right from the beginning, but if sometimes if you're unconsciously putting out the energy, then at times the wrong person will pick up on that and take it down a dark path. So I agree with Suzanne, clearing that energy, making sure that you're very clear about who you're wanting to bring in. When we hire, when we were hiring people full time, I'd be very clear from the beginning saying, look, we are not going to be holding your hand. We are not micromanagers. We need you to be a self-starter, and be really honest about that. And I tell them that I'm going to be throwing you in the deep end. And if you've got a problem, then you need to step up and ask for it. We will not be looking over you. And that, that sets the tone right from the beginning, so that there are no surprises down the line. So yeah, getting very clear about, what sort of boss you're going to be and making sure that you're able to communicate that right from the beginning. So I hope that's useful.
Thanks, Trace. Yeah. Wow. Sylvia? Love to hear.
No, I like everybody's thoughts. I don't want to go to like another case study. I think that the hard thing in all of this is that sometimes you don't even know who is coming in. They might become they might, go through some mental health crisis that you don't even know what's going on, and they don't even know it either. I think that that's hard when you know that they're aligned with you. You want to help, right? Kind of like what Annie said, is like somebody is a drunk or something like that. Not that everybody is like that, but just some kind of philosophy or something that they're dealing with. When is a time as an owner of a business to say enough is enough, right? Because you found alcohol missing, but there's other times I had the same thing happen to me. I definitely had an alcoholic that showed up drunk. And sometimes they didn't show up, and because they were drunk, right? So you learn about it anecdotally, and you want to support them. And as a small business, you don't have an HR department, right? To kind of say, okay, how do we deal with this? And what program can we assign them to? And blah, blah, blah. You have to be the brunt of being the empath, the boss, and, sometimes a friend, right? But you can't really be such a friend because you have to be the boss, and there's executables, and then you have a team that's like, what's going on, right? And you need to be able to give them the respect that they need to have as they're dealing with all of this. So I think that that's where kind of the rubber hits the road for me. Of all the examples that I could put forwards, is that's when it's like you cry at night as a business owner. You're like, how do I do this, right? In a very empathetic way. How do I do it? So for me, I've just always been very transparent with the employee, right? I talk to them. I say, I'm here for you, right? But there will become a day that we cannot really manage this, just you and I. So let's have some great conversations now before it gets worse. What are the things that you think you need to do to be successful? Like, do you need me to be more on top of you, or somebody else, or an accountability partner? And if that does not work for the next month, then we have to escalate it. Do you understand that? So that they're part of their own success and their own kind of empowerment to be a better employee, or even a contractor. It's happened to me as a contractor. It's the same thing. You still have that piece of who you are as a heart-centered boss or CEO. So I think that just, I wanted to bring that up. I know everybody's like nodding in agreement, but anything around there, I just think for me, transparency is what helps them. Listening and communicating, the two of us creating a co-plan instead of me as a boss saying, this is a plan, this is a program. Listening, being empathetic, and setting up some structure around that.
And what would they do if they were in your position? I always find that that's a good thing to put at people's, I'm running a business and we need to execute these things or there won't be a business. And so if you're in my shoes and your employee is doing this or this is happening, you don't have to be accusatory, but then what would you do in this case? And we put it back on them and hope for a good response and a better result. And that may occur, it may not, but at least it gives you some more feedback on the situation.
Yeah, the feedback that I got in that is, hire me as a consultant because you're doing everything wrong. Yes.
There's definitely an arrogance in that, isn't there? My goodness. Wow. There's no predicting that one.
Could not predict that one. No. All right, ladies, I think this is a phenomenal discussion so far that we've had. I'd like to end this off by chatting about our Superwoman Entrepreneur Mastermind. Just by the way, ladies, you'll be getting an email very soon to go check out the website before we go live to the public. But anyone that wants to be in on the secrets before we go live, please send us a DM. Any one of us, make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Superwoman Entrepreneurs. Make sure that you join our group, Superwoman Entrepreneurs, and on our Instagram page. So you will be coming in and out. So I'm not going to give right now what you're going to talk about in the Superwoman Entrepreneurs Mastermind, but I know that you will be in there for the long run. But Suzanne, tell us a little bit what you'll be dealing with in this mastermind and how you will help our fellow entrepreneurs in making the right hires to make this honeymoon period a little bit shorter so that they make the right hiring decisions and ultimately increase that success rate for small to medium enterprises.
So I'll be working on the mindset of the actual entrepreneur. So clearing any limiting beliefs, any blockages, anything like that, any past really negative experiences like some of those ones we've talked about today, getting those out of your energy field so that you don't attract more of the same horrible experience. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to learning from all of these other amazing super women. Thanks, Daphne.
Trace, how will you help our entrepreneurs with what you're gonna be dealing with in order to also limit that hiring process with what you focus on, in order to just get the most success out of everything that we do, so that all entrepreneurs that's joining our mastermind have a successful outcome?
Thanks, Daphne. Yes, I'm really excited about this program. My part of it is branding. So I will break down the theory behind branding, why it's important to have branding at every level of your business, and how that communicates your vision, not just to your external market, but also your internal, so that you are, so that the people who work for you are very clear about who they're working for, and what they're trying to achieve. So when you have brand clarity, then it makes a lot of other decisions very easy, because it states who you are and what you're doing in the market, and make sure that you're communicating that with an effective message in all areas of your business. So I'm going to break down the theory, and I'm also going to be giving some tips on how to create a brand for yourself, not just corporate, but also personal branding. So I'm really looking forward to that.
So am I. I am super stoked. Annie, how are you going to help our entrepreneurs?
Hi, I'm gonna be helping entrepreneurs developing relationships within their businesses. So we're talking about relationships with your clients, relationships with your suppliers, relationships with your colleagues, and that's one of my favorite ones, because there's so much fear surrounding working with colleagues who are in the same industry, as though there's not enough room for everyone, when in fact there is more room when you actually do work with your colleagues. There's bigger business and more opportunities. So I will be discussing all of those different business relationships and how they can impact your business in a positive way, and the negative side of it as well, in an effort to help you understand how they work and how that can really impact your business well.
Thank you so much. And what I'll be focusing on is digital marketing as a whole. In our mastermind, I'll be focusing specifically on LinkedIn. And during our coaching sessions, we'll be touching on all the different other platforms, including how to create a 360 complete marketing strategy for your specific business, incorporating the branding that Tracy is talking about, incorporating each and every aspect that you will have, so that you have a successful marketing campaign at the end of this. Sylvia, would you like to close us out today?
Yeah, so I'm going to take the more holistic view of building out your business plan through a one-page business builder. Necessarily is based on the lean methodology, but really looking at it as a service-based business. So we add a couple of different squares than the typical lean startup, and walking you through what that business plan looks like, because that's how you can really decrease that honeymoon period for these employees and contractors, to have a solid business plan based on the products that you want to bring to the world, and having the customers, the evangelical customers that Daphne's going to train you about getting in front of your products, and really being able to scale your company in the way that really, is based on your superpowers as a founder.
Thank you so much. Awesome. So guys, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. Please do remember to follow us on our platforms, our Facebook page, our Facebook group, our Instagram, Superwomen entrepreneurs, we'd love to talk to you again next week, same time, same place. Do feel free to DM us, to just post something on our group, especially if you've got topics that you want to chat about, and if there's something that you specifically want to learn about. We're here to help, and we're here to create a phenomenal network so that all of us can succeed and all of us can truly, truly thrive as superwomen entrepreneurs in a global network. Thank you so much, guys. See you next time. Thank you, ladies. You are awesome.
Thank you.